Houston, we have a problem.
I have a really bad feeling about this.
A boy's best friend is his mother.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Silent Green is people!
Yo, Adrian! I did it!
Let's put a smile on that face.
I gotta warn you, Clark. They don't play the same games here as they do at them regular casinos.
Royale too.
Welcome back to Casino Royale with Cheese. This is episode number 5. My name is Shane, and with me today I have my compadre who, it is true, has no dick. This is Mike.
Oh boy, you hit me with the dickless joke right out the gate, dude. Oh man, that's not even cool.
I did.
You caught me completely off guard with that.
I can tell. You just sit there stone faced. I love it. I love it. No, this is the show where me and Mike discuss movies that are number one at the box office, except that 20 years ago, exactly to the day. We're still riding that wave of the Titanic thing, where this thing was a monster. In fact, we still have, counting this week, we still have 6 more weeks to go. So, Mike, whenever that happens, we go through and we select a movie. We're trying to stay within that niche of having picked a movie that was number one at the box office. Mike selected the movie this week. What movie did you select for us, Mike?
Ghostbusters!
Ghostbusters! It was released June the 8th, 1984. I did, once again, some numbers crunching this week. It was number one at the box office for 10 weeks, which blows my mind. Yeah. But it was, so here, this is the crazy thing. It came out in June. It was, for 7 weeks, it was number one at the box office. And then it kind of slid off for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then it came back, popped into number one.
During Halloween?
No, it was in like August.
Oh.
Yeah. And then it fell back out, and like later on, it picked back up again, and then like 3 weeks later, it was, so like, it kind of, it's like when you have to take a piss real bad, like real bad, and like, it stops and starts and stops and starts, yeah. So,
movies were released for a lot longer. Like, they would do a lot longer runs in movie theaters than they do today.
They were. They had a longer shelf life back then. There weren't as many blockbusters, I don't think.
Yeah, and well, even with the blockbuster too, like there would only be like 2 or 3 copies of each one of those movies.
Right.
So, like it was really, the odds of getting to rent it like as soon as it came out on VHS was pretty slim. Mm-hmm. Like you'd be on top of your rental game.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it was a lot cheaper to go to a movie too.
It was. But that means that on the same token, that the box office wasn't as high as it would be like today, by example. Like if you're going back then and paying like $4.50 for a ticket, as opposed to, what is it, like $12 now, to go see a movie?
Something retarded, yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I know if I take Nicole to see a movie, if Nicole and I are going to go see a movie, so the two of us for entry into the show, plus popcorn and drink, it's $40.
Oh, yeah. It's not a cheap date like it used to be.
No.
In fact, we went and did the deal where like they do the adult like painting classes or whatever, and they serve like beer and all that other stuff there. And I was telling my wife, I said, you're better off really at this point. I said, whenever our daughter gets to that point where she starts dating, like I'm gonna encourage her to go do that instead, because it's really, if you don't know somebody, it's a better date, and it's probably about the same price, so. And
it's not dark in there.
That is, there's lots of hand checks and stuff like that.
So that's you don't have to worry about. that dude cutting that old hole in the bottom of him was popcorn.
No, playing hide the baloney or whatever. Yeah, I know.
We're way off track.
Yeah, we are.
So
this movie was made
10
on
times.
Yeah, 10 weeks. It was made on a budget of $30 million. It brought in almost 10 times what its budget was. It made over $295 million at the box office, and that's just on its first run. It's been released since then, and it came out in 3D, I'm sure, and all that crap. It was directed by Ivan Reitman. It has Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Rick Moranis, Annie Potts. And one of my favorites is William Atherton. He's the EPA guy that was in Die Hard, the news reporter. Yeah. But so that's Ghostbusters. Join us again next week. No, no. So what's your story with Ghostbusters, Mike?
Like, I mean, it was a childhood movie for me.
Yeah.
I would have been 6 when that came out. My parents are always like really cool about not shielding my brother and I from movies because of like maybe sexual nature or any of that stuff in there. Like, they just figured we could handle it, and we watched it. We watched all the movies with them. So I remember loving this movie, and after watching it, I still love it.
Yeah. There you go. I had a different sort of tale. So you got a couple years on me, and just a couple. But my parents were a lot more protective in regard to the their idea of like entertainment was garbage in, garbage out, basically. And so, like, this movie came out the year I was born, so obviously I was too young to catch it in its original release. And then it was weird because, like, I remember, like, this movie is the kind of like the perfect storm of like brand recognition before there was a brand. Like, because you had the song, everybody's wearing the t-shirts, you know, like they had all the toys and everything, like out of the jump, you know. And so
yeah, I had all that stuff.
Yeah. And I remember my dad, he was wearing like a Ghostbusters shirt, and for whatever reason, like I was never allowed to watch Ghostbusters, even though like whenever I was watching it, me and Mike were just talking about like my 2-year-old is obsessed with this. She asked me to watch it at least 2 other times, and I figured, well, if you're gonna watch ghost stuff, this is probably about as timid as you can get, you know.
Yeah, it's really not extreme at all.
No, I mean, there's a couple of little scares there, but it's not graphic, and you know, I mean, it's all kind of cartoony in a way. And I mean, if you're scared by Slimer, then you're the biggest pussy ever, you know. But it's, you know, like I went through, and I probably didn't watch this movie until I want to say maybe the late 90s. Like, I think I might have actually seen like Pulp Fiction before I saw this movie.
Damn.
And yeah, and so it was something I never really grew up with. And I will say, like, there's this, especially since there was the remake that came out, which was absolute dog shit, I thought. Since that came out, like, there's been this really vocal group of people that have talked about like their undying love for this movie. And if I was to sit back and say that I felt that way about any movie from the 80s, it's probably either going to be Indiana Jones or Back to the Future. Probably not this. And so, you know, it is what it is. Yeah. But I can understand why people really like it, though, on the same token. But, you know, it's whatever. Anyway, do you want to talk about this movie, Mike?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. We'll talk about it. So, awesome. We start at New York. Looks like a library.
Yeah.
There is a librarian going about her thing, and immediately you can see all kinds of weird stuff happening.
Let's pump the brakes a second. Just a second. I'm going to deviate some, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's walking around picking up these books off the tables in the library. Do you ever do that if you go to the library? Just leave your shit sitting there, Mike?
No. I don't think I did. I think I put my book away.
Yeah, I think that's really rude, actually. This poor old lady sitting there having to cart these books for these lazy bastards that won't put their stuff back when they're done reading.
That's her job, though.
I know, but I think
she's the librarian.
Just go put the damn book back, you know. Anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
But anyway, you can see stuff is going on right away.
Yeah, she's not picking up on any of it.
Right. But she does. Pretty quickly, we cut to... She gets scared. Does she see a ghost? Oh, we don't see the ghost. She sees a ghost.
Right. Oh, and all those card catalog cards are like flopping around.
Yeah.
Dude, fuck putting those back. I would quit, man.
I was watching those cards fly out of that thing. I'm like, man, I don't know how they did that. Make it look so smooth.
I was wondering too, because it's not like they put a fan up underneath and cards just, I mean, they're all moving like in a row down the thing, like blowing up one by one, not all of them in a big puff, you know?
Yeah, they're like shooting up at a quick pace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how they did that.
It was pretty cool though.
Yeah, it's effective.
We cut straight to Venkman, his paranormal studies.
Just a sidetrack here, and I hate to keep interrupting you, but to me, this is the funniest scene of the movie. Bar none, out of the gate.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like the scene a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
basically, he's asking these a young lady and a young man to guess what shape he's holding in his hand. No matter what the dude does, he shocks him. No matter what the girl does, he says, "You're great.
Yeah.
You're great."
You can't see these, can you? Yeah.
He is obviously just down to bang that chick. That's all he's trying to do.
My favorite is whenever he shocks the dude a second time and the gum falls out of his mouth.
He picks it back up.
Yeah.
He puts it back in his mouth all awkwardly.
Yeah, the timing on that's so great, man. It just cracks
I
me
really
up.
like how when he got it right, he still got shocked.
A couple of wavy lines, which if you'll notice, that's what Bill Murray was studying anyway. He said that he wanted to study the effects of negative reinforcement on EPA ability or ESP abilities or whatever. And so, like, the dude actually proved like his point, and he still shocked the piss out of him. He's just worried about getting laid.
It's a good scene.
Yeah, I like it. And then we meet Ray Stantz.
Played by Dan Aykroyd.
Mm-hmm. And he comes in wanting some recording equipment because he and Bill Murray and who we haven't met yet, Egon Spangler, played by Harold Ramis, they all share this same office at this university. And he comes in and he's wanting his like blank tapes and his video recorder and all that stuff because he heard about the incident that happened at the library. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, freaking Ray convinces Bill Murray to tell this chick to piss off. And so they go through and they head to the library where they meet Egon. Now this, Mike, is one of my major gripes with the movie. I really feel like this is a vehicle for Bill Murray and nobody else. Because the other guys, they'll get the occasional funny lines and stuff like that. But you never really find out anything about him. Like within 3 minutes in that first scene, we obviously know what Bill Murray's all about. Like, he doesn't take things seriously. He's kind of a poon hound, you know. And he's, you know, he just fucks around all the time, basically. But, you know, we never learn what really is, like, the character dynamics of anybody else in the movie, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. I didn't think about it. You just said it right now. They don't really develop the characters. They just are what they are.
Yeah, they're scientists, but that's not really a character trait. That's a job, you know. But anyway,
They're all doctors.
Yeah, but
They're
that's
smart.
yeah, they are.
But weird.
I think
Like
that
they're a little eccentric.
yeah, but if you took, for example, like Ray Stantz and Egon Spangler, and you swap their personality traits, you would basically have the same person, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're both like on the that scale somewhere.
Right.
You know, they always talk about on the autism scale. They're in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. But I will say though that if you're watching this, going into Under the Guise, the like Bill Murray, in my opinion, steals the show, then you're not going to be disappointed because, like, for as much as they built him up, like he definitely, you get quite a payoff with him because I think
He delivers.
Yeah, Bill Murray was fantastic. But anyway, what happens after that, Mike?
I don't know. They're walking around like scanning books and stuff with some cool looking instruments.
The old PKE meter, all that stuff. Yep.
And they see a real ghost.
Mm-hmm. It's this old librarian that obviously was either like died in the library or something to that effect, because she's over there reading books and telling them to shush and all that crap. And they don't really know how to get her attention. Bill Murray goes to try to talk to her, and she just shushes him. He asks where she's from originally, which I find really funny. And so anyway, freaking then Ray gets the idea that they're just gonna like grab her. And of course you see this ghost like turn into this giant hulking creature and like growls at them, and so they just bolt, which is pretty great.
Yeah, it's one of the real like jump scares in the film.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking when my 2-year-old kept wanting to watch it. I was like, I don't know if that's okay, man. Like, I could see, and every time I'd look over and be like, "Are you scared?" And she's like, "Yeah." But yeah.
Yeah, Farrah watched it the beginning of this movie with me, and around then,
Yeah.
she was like, "I'm cool. I'm gonna go watch TV in my room. I'll see y'all later."
Right. Maybe in a couple years, Dad. That's it. Anyway, they decide that so they go back to their office at the university, only to find out that they got shit canned. That the universe is sick of their crap. They think they're a bunch of like snake oil salesmen, basically. That this ghost crap isn't for real, and so they decide that they're gonna go into business for themselves. And
it's strange timing, by the way.
It is.
Like, the university's gonna get rid of their paranormal studies group when we just had a real incident.
Right. It is. Even from a narrative standpoint, they just kind of fall ass backwards into like, we're gonna start our own business, you know?
Yeah, they're basically forced to do something.
Yeah, I mean that's true. And there's some funny stuff with that. Whenever, because Dan Aykroyd has to like mortgage his house again, so that they can have some capital to like start up this business. And Bill Murray's like, "That's okay. Lots of people have a third mortgage." But yeah, it's pretty great.
So they buy a firehouse.
Mm-hmm. They get this firehouse, and it seems like there's a lot of unnecessary expenses that are being thrown around for a bunch of guys that are worried about money. They hired Janine. I don't remember.
Annie
Janine's
Potts?
last name. Yeah, Annie Potts. And which I'm like, you really need somebody to answer the phone. Like, if you're hard up for money, just answer the phone yourself. But whatever.
But I'm really glad they hired her.
Oh yeah, Annie Potts is great in this.
I love that character.
Yeah, I agree. Because she doesn't care about any of this ghost crap. She's just a secretary for hire, you know. If they're paying, that's fine, you know. She treats it like a regular job. Let's see. After they find the firehouse where they're going to set up their operation, we meet Dana Barrett, played by Sigourney Weaver. And as much as Sigourney Weaver, I never really found her, like when I watch Aliens, I was like, I don't know what everybody's talking about. Like,
You're going to say the same thing I was thinking.
Yeah. She's good looking in this, man.
I think this is the prettiest Sigourney we see, like in
yeah.
any of her movies.
Did you ever watch Galaxy Quest?
No.
Oh, okay. Because it's kind of like a Star Trek parody, if you will, with Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver and
I think I might have seen that,
Yeah.
actually, now that you mention it.
Right, but she's in that, and she's a blonde, and she looks really good. And that's like 15 years after this, so, you know, she's looking...
Throughout this movie, as Sigourney gets more, we'll jump a little bit here, as she gets more, like, possessed, she gets hotter.
Mm-hmm. I agree. She's wearing that flowing, like, clothing and stuff, and yeah, she does. She looks a little uptight at the start, but she cuts loose, and she starts visually being all the better for it, so...
we also meet Louis Tully.
Who, that's another great character, man. I'm a Rick Moranis junkie anyway, yeah.
Yeah, you know the story about that guy? Like, where he went?
I heard that after his wife passed away that he basically hung it up.
Yeah, he did. His wife died and said, "My children need a parent, like present." My wife held that down while she was alive, like I could go film a movie and like I knew that my kids were good. He
Yeah.
goes, but now that she's gone, I have to be a full-time parent. And so he just quit, retired right there, done.
That is extremely commendable, I gotta say.
Yeah, pretty honorable, I would say.
Yeah. Although, if I was a millionaire, it would be an easier decision to make too. So.
Yeah, but he's in it. He plays a great character too, Lewis.
Louis Tully, he's an accountant that all he ever talks about, he has no personality outside of his accounting work at all. But he is the neighbor of Dana Barrett, and he's constantly, like, anytime she walks by his apartment, he, like, comes out and tries to hit on her.
And locks himself out of his apartment.
He locks himself out like 3 times, which is such a great gag. I've been there. Have you ever had anybody that would, like, wait until you left your apartment to, like, talk to you, Mike?
Ooh, no. I don't think I've had that experience.
I did. And in my first apartment, I call it Ghetto Melrose Place because the whole thing, if you look at it from like an aerial view, made like a big U. And it was just a crappy first time apartment, 1-bedroom thing. We didn't even have like central air or anything like that. There was this old lady that lived on the other side of the U from me. And she would always wear like this purple like sweatsuit, and it had like mustard stains down the front of it and stuff like that.
Ah.
Yeah. And so she wasn't trying to hit on me or anything, obviously, but it was so weird because like I would go to leave, my apartment, and she'd be like, "Hey," I was like, "What's up?" She's like, "Hey, where are you going?" I was, "Well, I'm gonna go out and get something to eat," or whatever was the case. And she's like, "Can you get me a pack of cigarettes while you're out?" No. Are you kidding me? And then she would talk to me about how she like got this job as like a shoe salesman and stuff like that. Are you kidding me? In your purple sweatsuit? And then there was at one point she asked if I could change or check the oil level on her car. And I was headed over to my parents. It was like a holiday or something like that. And I was like, "Look, lady, I'm busy. I got stuff going on." She's like, "I'll give you some money for it." And I was like, "Well, I mean, I got a couple minutes, And
I'm pretty broke.
Right,
so sure.
right. And so anyway, I go and I check the oil on her car, and I look, and I was like, "Yeah, your oil seems to be fine." And she's like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "Here, take this." And she hands me this ball of tinfoil, and I open it up, and there's this piece of chicken in there. She's like, "All right, well, Merry Christmas." Like, I do not.
She said Merry Christmas?
I think so, because it was like a holiday or whatever day it was. I was like, I do not want this piece of crap chicken, dude. What's the money? But yeah. So I had somebody like that. I would avoid leaving because I did not want to run into them. But anyway.
Well, she's always really nice to Lewis. Sigourney's, what's her, Dana? Dana's always really nice to Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's never like rude to him.
Right. She's not an asshole to him.
No.
We first meet her whenever she's coming in from the grocery store. And she goes in, and Lewis comments that the superintendent came by because the TV was on. And it catches her completely off guard because she didn't leave the TV on. And apparently the volume was too loud. And so anyway, she starts putting up her groceries and all this other crap. And the next thing you know is the eggs start popping out of their shells on her countertop.
You're like boiling and cooking right there.
Yeah. And then she sees this weird light coming from her fridge, opens it up, and there's this thing that looks like this demonic dog in there. And it says Zool. She freaks out and leaves.
Yeah, her fridge is like a gate to hell or something.
Mm-hmm. Which I love. There's a pretty funny payoff with that later with Bill Murray, but yeah. Anyway, we after that, what happens? Oh, they introduced the car, which is as iconic as the movie itself.
Yeah, Aykroyd buys an old ambulance.
Mm-hmm. The Ecto 1.
It's only resembles the Ecto 1 in shape. It hasn't had any of the cool gadgets or anything yet on it.
Yeah, this thing's a
paint
rust bucket.
scheme.
It even starts going through and listing off like a litany of all the crap that's wrong with this stinking car, And
But it's perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. They paid $4,800 for that piece of shit, dude.
Ooh, they overpaid.
And that's in 80s money right there.
Yeah, they overpaid on that.
They did. Oh, man.
So then Sigourney Weaver's character Dana comes to the Ghostbusters headquarters.
And yep, she does, and she talks about how there was a ghastly experience that she had in her apartment. And so Venkman, which is Bill Murray's character, Peter Venkman, decides that he's going to go check out the apartment. And this whole scene is actually pretty comedic gold, in my opinion. Whenever, because even the first time he's like, I'm gonna go to her apartment and check her out. I'm gonna go check her apartment out, you know?
Yeah.
Which is a great line. Anyway, he goes to the apartment, and he's basically just being a scumbag, doing everything he can to hit on her and stuff like that. My favorite
It
of
makes
which...
it pretty clear he's only there to, like, hook up. He's not there to do any work at all.
Right. My favorite of which is whenever he goes to her bedroom, and she's like, nothing happened in my bedroom. And he's like, what a crime, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, he goes into the kitchen because that's where she says she saw the apparitions. He checks on the eggs that popped and cooked on her countertop. And then he looks over in the fridge and he's like, oh my God, look at all this junk food, which is pretty funny. And so finally she gives him the point and like tells him to piss off since he's not doing anything anyway.
She calls him a game show host.
Yeah. Which is pretty accurate. You don't remind me of a professor. You're more like a game show host, yeah. I did actually write down that Lewis totally keeps locking himself out of the apartment. Oh, and it's funny because when Bill Murray leaves, like Lewis opens the door hoping to see Dana, and then like he sees Peter Venkman, and he like turns around. But he locked himself out again.
He locked himself out that fast. He literally took one step outside of his door, turned around, spun right back into a locked door.
Right. It's pretty great. And then they start, we cut to where they're all eating dinner in the Ghostbusters headquarters. And it's kind of weird because he talks about how he wants to go out with this Dana Barrett girl, so he needs some petty cash. But they're like, hey, we're out of money. And then you look behind him and you see they have like 2 arcade cabinets and a pinball machine back there. I'm like, was that really necessary? Yeah, we need to reprioritize our money here.
If you live in a firehouse and you have an ambulance for a work vehicle, then pinball machines are necessary.
I would disagree. But
okay.
I think that it's an unimportant waste of resources myself. But you also have to keep in mind too that, you know, if this is your job and you're there 24 hours a day, you will need some form of entertainment. However, the Nintendo came out that year in the United States, so I would just buy one of those. It's way less than a pinball machine.
Yeah.
Oh, earlier on too.
Solid point.
Yeah. Earlier on
Nintendo over.
Oh yeah. Plus, it's $50. You can get a whole new game. You know. It's just me. Earlier on in the movie, I like where Dan Aykroyd, they're like checking out the firehouse, and you hear Dan Aykroyd race dance, and he's like, "Hey, does this pole still work?" It's just a great line. It's so dumb, so great.
He slides down it.
Yeah, so it still works. You bet. What happens after that, Mike?
We see the car. We see the Echo One in all its glory.
We do.
Because they get their first call.
Yeah, at the Sedgwick Hotel. And,
Annie Potts answers it and hits like a big like alarm in the firehouse, and
we got
it
one.
Goes.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time we hear that the Ghostbusters like theme song.
Yeah. Do they play it there? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My brain says it does. They did.
I think part of that might be the trailer of the movie too, maybe associating, because I think they were playing some of that more like jazzy piano crap there. But anyway,
Okay.
It doesn't matter, not in the slightest. We go to the Sedgwick Hotel, and we finally get to see the guys all like decked out in their proton packs and all this other stuff, and we find out what powers them is a nuclear accelerator.
What the fuck?
Right? You're walking around with like this nuclear reactor on your back.
I wrote down like nuclear accelerator and big like question mark explanation points. Like, you're crazy.
Right.
I'm totally on board with the whole ghost busting thing all the way up until this point. Now you're telling me to strap on a proton pack, aka a nuclear accelerator. I don't know. I might be out at this point.
Right. This is actually one of my favorite sight gags in the movie too. Is when they're all in the elevator heading up to what floor was it on? They said was it the 12th floor in the stupid hotel? Yeah. And so anyway, they're heading up the elevator. They're like, "Man, we didn't have time to test our gear. I guess we should do it now, you know." And so they like power the thing on, and he's been talking about how it's like a nuclear accelerator, and they both like take a step back. If
Like
it's
one
nuclear, that's not gonna make a difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they get up to the 12th floor, and they hear some movement, and they shoot at this poor cleaning lady that's like pushing this cart around.
They almost kill housekeeping.
Yeah, they do. It was really funny. One thing I actually do like about these proton packs is in the movie, it's not like a Star Trek thing or a Star Wars thing. Like, you know, you shoot the wall and it makes a little... I mean, these things are destructive, dude. Like, you see burning trails of where they leave, like, imprints on the wall where they shoot these things, you know? Like, that's obviously a very unsafe way that they have of doing things. But they go through and they decide that they're going to split up. Which is funny, because Bill Murray, in a sarcastic tone, is like, "Yeah, we can do more damage that way," which is really funny. And so anyway, Ray sees a ghost, and he's like pigging out on this stupid like a room service, like the little cart that they have.
Cart.
Yeah, like somebody went through
leftovers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody picked up a plate and left it there, and he's just getting it, which is the ghost known as Slimer later on in the cartoon. But yeah, so he was. They named him in the cartoon and all that. But you watched more of the cartoon than I did, Mike.
Well, I just think it's interesting how he goes from like this random ghost in the hallway during the movie to through the lifetime of the Ghostbuster world, you know, to include the sequels and the cartoons and all that stuff. Like, he becomes an integral character in Ghostbusters.
Right, he does. In fact, from my understanding, he was so popular in the cartoon, they actually devoted like a segment of the cartoon, like in the later seasons, where it was Slimer in the real Ghostbusters, and he would have his own like, you know, little shorts on the cartoon too. So
yeah, I loved him.
Yeah.
I remember like affectionately caring about Slimer.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember even as a kid, because once again, I was pretty sheltered as far as my entertainment intake goes, and like I didn't watch the Ghostbusters cartoon or the movies or anything, but I knew who Slimer was, so kind of became his own icon in and of itself.
And we see basically why he gets that name pretty shortly after we meet him, because he goes right through Peter Venkman and slimes him.
Which is funny, because you don't really know what's going to happen whenever he, like, approaches Venkman. Like, if he's going to kill him or what, you know? He's just laying in the floor in this puddle of goo. But,
I like how Ray is so excited. He's like, "Egon, Peter was just slimed." And then Egon's like, "Oh, great, save some of that for me before it dries."
yeah. I think it's awesome Bill Murray's just in the floor in a puddle.
He's looking bewildered. You know, he doesn't know what the hell just happened.
But so anyway, it's right after Bill Murray gets slimed that they run down to the ballroom, because that's where the ghost has gone, which is another great scene. They go down there and they just start tearing up everything, just shooting stuff with their proton packs, and they really don't give a fuck at this point. Like, even Bill Murray takes like the tablecloth and like tries to yank it out. Everything gets knocked over.
Yeah, he said the flowers are still standing.
Right. It's at this point that Egon lets him know that he says, "Hey, you know, I probably should have told you guys before, but don't cross the streams on these proton packs."
Don't cross the streams.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you noticed it at this point, but it looked like to me they have no control over these streams.
Dude, that thing's wiggling all over the place, man.
Like, even the toy for the
Right.
Ghostbusters toy, like, you would spin it, the laser, and the laser was, like, all wobbly and crooked as fuck. Like,
Yeah.
it was real clear that these things didn't shoot in straight lines.
No. Absolutely.
And how were you supposed to not cross streams?
So if you stayed anywhere close to anybody with that thing, because these things legit look like electricity. Like if you could see electricity arcing, it's just going everywhere, you know. But yeah, that was my take on it too. I don't know if I could control that or not, man. Anyway, it's funny because there's like the concierge at the hotel. He keeps telling them, you know, that all the guests, because apparently there's some sort of function in the ballroom that's supposed to take place while they're in there messing around. And so the freaking the concierge is like, don't worry, everything will be ready. And all of a sudden you hear this like table topple over, you know, and they shoot the chandelier and all this other crap. And finally the guy gets sick of it and he's like, go get a key and open this room now, you know. And as soon as they go to open it, the Ghostbusters open up because they have the ghost trapped in this little ghost trap, basically. And they're like, we came, we saw, we kicked its ass, which is another classic line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton actually steals that later.
Hillary Clinton did?
Yeah, she was talking about Omar Gaddafi.
Oh my gosh.
She didn't know she was being recorded. She was there for like a news interview. She didn't realize they were recording like as they were prepping.
Oh, Lordy.
And she goes, we came, we saw, he died. Ha ha ha.
Oh my gosh.
Talking about Gaddafi.
I guess, so Reagan quoted Back to the Future, and he named this space program Star Wars, so I guess I can't really talk. It's crazy. But, yeah. Anyway, the concierge at the hotel is like, I'm not gonna, because, like, Venkman starts naming off all these prices for, like, recharging their equipment, which if it's nuclear, it's not gonna need recharging anyway. But, he starts talking about, like, ghost storage and the actual, like, labor of catching this. Like, the whole thing comes to, like, $5,000, you know?
$5,000. What a deal.
He's like, I'm not paying for that. And he's like, that's fine. We'll just drop them right back off. So, fine. You know?
$5,000 is such a deal, though. Like, literally, dude, we had to build nuclear accelerator backpacks and we invented a device to catch ghosts. Like,
Yeah.
we were doing something that no one else on the planet can do, and it's only $5,000.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm coming from with this whole thing, is that they really have quite a handle on the market there, you know? There's zero competition in that field, you know? So you can charge whatever you want, really. Oh, it's $500,000 to get rid of a ghost, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially for a large, like, hotel business owner, $5,000 is not bad. And you don't have to worry about the ghost anymore. I mean, that's a win-win right there, you know? So, anyway, business starts booming.
They're in all the news and
Yeah.
magazines.
He said, what was it, in one of the news interviews, Bill Murray says, no job is too small, no fee is too small. Or no job is too large, no fee is too, something like that. But yeah, he's basically just wanting money, you know, which is fine. They go through this whole montage of like these news reports and like Larry King, and they're on newspapers and the news and all this crap. And then it does this weird sequence where it cuts to Ray while he's asleep and he's getting a blowjob from a ghost.
I didn't know if he was fucking a ghost. I think he was dreaming about fucking a ghost.
Right. That's
Because it's a dream, right?
Yeah. I mean, it shows him fall off the bed. Yeah. So
He didn't actually hook up with a ghost.
No. But it's still pretty
he was
damn weird, though.
Yeah, everybody in the room, because like my nephew, I mean, he's grown, he's 20, his girlfriend is 18, and my wife and I were sitting there watching the movie, and we all just looked at each other like, was he fucking a ghost? Like, did we see that right? That was the one thing in the movie we round it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, because it does the little the wavy scene.
Yeah.
I don't know how to, and then you hear the like sounds like
The
so you can tell it's a
movie
dream.
sequence stuff. Yeah.
Right. So it hits you with the cliche like movie dream, and so he was dreaming about it, which I think is almost even weirder.
Why was he dreaming about banging a ghost?
I don't know.
That's strange, man. I don't get it. Whatever, dude.
But you see, he sleeps in the same room as Egon.
Yeah. That's also kind of strange. Once again, though, I mean, they don't have a whole lot of money to kick around for everybody to get their own bedroom and stuff in there either, so it is what it is, I guess.
I guess that was the bunkhouse at the station.
Yeah. And, I mean, it sounds bad, but I'm sure you have too. I've slept in, not with dudes, but in the same room with more dudes than I care to count, you know, so it's...
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've slept, like, back to back with other men
Yeah.
is insane.
I've seen way more sausage than I ever had any plans of in my days.
Fair enough.
Yeah, in an environment like that happens sometimes, I guess. At least they were friends with them. So, anyway, she had mentioned before. We get a new employee. Actually, it's Winston Zeddemore. Yeah, Winston's oftentimes kind of overlooked, I think. And I think I know why, actually. And I could even see people being like, oh, it's because he's black. Not really. Because you brought him up literally, like, you introduced this character about halfway through the movie. And, I mean, you get the impression he's supposed to be, like, the streetwise dude, you know, that's, whatever. He doesn't have any affinity for, like, ghosts or anything like that. But aside from that, his character's kind of a blank slate too, in my opinion. But
Well, he says like 3 lines throughout the whole film or something.
he really does. Which is, I mean, there's that whole sequence where he's in the car talking about Revelation and like the end of days and all that sort of thing. But that's really like his one big scene where he gets to kind of branch out and do his own thing. Otherwise, he just kind of sits in the back, you know.
Yep.
But
He said he really only he's down for the job as long as it pays.
yeah, he does. That's all he wants is a job. You know?
Yeah, he's the only one on the team that's not a doctor.
Yeah, he's not a scientist or any kind of professor or anything. He's basically, I mean, if this job paid less than janitor, he would go do that, you know? Like, but
Yeah, I was surprised there was only one guy applying.
yeah. Well, they're on TV and stuff.
Yeah, I'm there.
I'll go be with these dudes. Yeah, they're chilling, having fun.
If I live in New York City in 1984 and I see on TV the Ghostbusters, or I see in the newspaper the Ghostbusters are hiring, whatever the situation is, I'm there.
Yeah. Well,
I'm applying.
And think about it too, is you have to think like long term. Hey, you know what? Ghostbusters dries up, money dries up, and all that. You could even write a book, you know, and be like, hey, this is some of the shit that I saw back in the day, and you know you're gonna make money off of it, you know. So there's other ways, as in the public limelight as they are, other ways to make money on that deal, you know. But
Yes.
Peter Venkman goes to see Dana Barrett after she gets done rehearsal. She plays in an orchestra. It looks like she plays the cello, and he goes to see her and makes a date with her and tells her, because she had mentioned to him before that the creature that she saw in her refrigerator said the word Zool. She didn't know what it was, and so he goes to see her, tells her he found out a couple of things about Zool, but none of it's really all that helpful. And so then he like manages to convince her to go out with him. And
She seemed a little like interested though,
she's a little more playful this time, definitely.
because she is walking out with like a violinist or something,
Right.
and you could tell that like maybe those two talk a little bit, or maybe they're just coworkers. I don't know their situation. But when she sees Bill Murray, she immediately is like, I gotta go talk to this guy.
Yeah, yeah. And she, you know, whenever he's coming off with this cheesy lines and all that, she kind of reciprocates it a little bit, you know, feeds off of it, yeah. So obviously she's interested. You didn't really get that much of an impression before, but yeah, she's vibing with him now, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
They set up a date, and then we cut to where Ray Stantz is showing Winston how to use the ghost trap, and you have to put this thing in here and pull all these levers and all that. And they basically have this thing set up in their basement to trap all these ghosts that they've caught.
It is a ghost like storage device.
Yeah, it is. I can only imagine, like, if their other equipment uses like nuclear power cells, this thing probably drinks electricity like it's Gatorade, dude. But
Yeah, and then so the EPA shows up.
yeah, Walter Peck, and
The EPA though. Like the FBI, CIA, like everybody and their mom would be there, but no, it's the EPA.
right, EPA, and they come to shit on everything. But it's Walter Peck, and he's great. The actor, I don't know. Oh, it's what did I say the actor's name was? William Atherton. He plays an asshole in everything that he's in, you know? He's just one of those guys you want to punch in the face. But he's kind of like the principal on the Breakfast Club, you know? Mm-hmm. But him and Peter Venkman go around for a while because Walter Peck wants to see the storage facility. And he basically tells him no, and he's like, well, okay, I'll be back with a court order then. And that's essentially, long story short, how the scene comes to a close. We get to where they're, what is it? I think this is the scene where Ray and Winston basically are simply discussing the increased activity and the ghosts around town. And Winston is convinced that it has something to do with like biblical axioms and stuff like that. Like this is some sort of revelation type deal where the end of the world's coming, and Ray doesn't really know what to think about all that stuff. And so that's effectively like as far as that scene goes. And then we see Vince Clortho and Zool awaken. There's these two gargoyle things on top of Dana Barrett's building. And so anyway, these two creatures start to awaken, and they look like these big dogs, basically, kind of like what we saw in Dana Barrett's refrigerator earlier on in the movie, and which I think Vince Clortho for a demon is it's a great name. But so anyway, Dana's like at home. She just got home. She's getting ready for a date or whatever, and she sees this weird light coming from her kitchen, and she's on the phone with her mom first, doesn't notice it, and then she like looks over and there's this weird light going on, and all of a sudden like her chair spins around and sucks her into the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean she's getting ready for a date with Venkman.
Yeah, with Peter Venkman, yeah. And it's
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, like, this whole time there's a stupid party that's taking place that Lewis has been talking about this entire movie. And the party's pretty fantastic in regard to how funny it is. Because he has this dumbass party, and apparently he says that if he invited over like his clients instead of his friends, which I'm sure he probably doesn't have any, then he'd be able to like count it as like a tax write-off. So, freaking.
Didn't he go back over to Sigourney to like ask her to come to the party, and she said she couldn't, and then he was like, "Okay, we're gonna be doing some breakdancing." Right.
She walks in. She's getting ready to come home and get ready for a date, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna come over to the party," and she was like, "I'm sorry." She's like, "I set up a date," and like his feelings are a little bit hurt, and he's like, "You planned a date on my party day?" And she's like, "I forgot all about it, dude." And he's like, "Well, that's okay. You can bring him along," which is. It's pretty cool. Like, I actually like Louis Tully. He's a nice guy. A bit derpy.
I feel bad, though, because I think he came up with this whole party just to get her there.
I can see that. And that's probably why he still invited her and told her she could still bring her date or whatever. So, anyway, the party's great because we see freaking... He's going around, like, telling everybody how much he paid for, like, all the food and stuff like that. And... Like, whenever a person arrives at the party, he like will go through their whole like financial, like where they're at financially, like how much they own their house and how much money like they're bringing in like annually and stuff like that.
Well, it's a complete nerd party and then one hot blonde.
Right. And she's ready to bounce. And he's like, well, let's just dance and get this thing popping off, you know? And that's whenever the other devil dog, the Vince Clortho, basically makes his appearances. He's in the bedroom. Like, he takes somebody's coat and throws it on his bed. And the stupid, like, monster's in there. And then you see him and he goes, okay, who brought a dog? And so anyway, this stupid what is it? This dog starts chasing him like out of the hotel, breaks through his door, and he takes off around town, which is another great scene. There's so much funny stuff in this. I really wish that I liked this movie better than I did, because I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say that it's a bad movie, but I don't love it like so many people do. Anyway, this dog is chasing him around, and he's trying to get people's attention. Nobody gives a crap. And he goes to this restaurant where it's like this fine dining deal. And he's like banging on the windows of this restaurant, and this dog's chasing him down. And so the next thing he does, he sits back and like he's trying to get people's attention or whatever. And so this dog basically mauls him or whatever. And people like look over real quick. And then as soon as he drops to the ground, they just go back to eating.
Yeah, the music commences.
Yeah, do not care about this pea brain guy, but yeah. So I believe after he awakens, Louis Tully obviously is not all there. He starts spouting off all this crap about, you know, the gatekeeper and the keymaster and all this other stuff, and he thinks that that this horse is like the gatekeeper. Or is the key? Yeah, I think it's the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Anyways,
because he's the key keeper.
The keymaster, yeah.
Keymaster, yeah.
And he's basically trying to
horse.
find Zool at this point. And so anyway, he like goes up to this like horse-drawn carriage or whatever. He thinks that the horse is, Zool, and the guy that's like the driver of the carriage, he's like, hey, he said, if you want to ride, you got to go with me. And he starts like growling at this dude. And so like, anyway, the guy's like, what an asshole. The police finally pick him up and drop him off at Ghostbusters headquarters, which is great because Janine's like dropping off or picking up to the cops.
You can tell it's routine at this point.
Yeah, somebody's in trouble, yeah. And so, anyway, Egon's doing all this experimentation on him and trying to figure out. They actually show like this, looks like an infrared monitor or whatever, and you see that like it actually looks like the devil dog basically, and he starts doing all this weird crap and talking about like how Gozer the Gozerian like came and manifested itself as a giant slore and all this other stuff about how these like civilizations had been purged and all this crap. And so anyway, they decide that he what is it? Oh, meanwhile, Venkman goes to Dana's apartment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what happens there, Mike?
She asks him if he's the key master.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I'm the key master.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, first time he says no, and she slams the door, and then he knocks again, and he says yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So he goes inside, and it's really awkward because she's like seducing him.
Yeah.
But he can tell that something's not right here. Like she's off her rocker, or she's possessed with something. So he has a chance to get what he wants, but because he knows that she's not, it's not really her. It's not Dana.
Right.
So he's actually like opposing it, which
right.
is kind of cool. Because I think it's our first time we see Bill Murray has like, he is willing to.
He has like morals at least.
Some type of morals, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I can't take advantage of this girl.
I want to say that, but then something else happens that I'm like, no, I think he might be a scumbag because she starts like levitating above the bed. And so he calls the firehouse and talks to Egon, and he's like, yo, Egon, something's weird with this chick, and starts talking about her being possessed or whatever. And so anyway, he's like, I pumped her full of 300 cc's of Thorazine. Were you going to bring the Thorazine on the date with you? Like, do we have a Bill Cosby situation? I've never brought any sort of drugs, like a tranquilizer, on a date.
Same.
Yeah.
Never have.
So
I thought he
Maybe.
played pretty super cool though.
Yeah.
The whole
He
scene,
did.
he like I'd have been losing my shit.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was pretty funny. She's like, "I want you inside me." He's like, you already got one too many people in there." Yeah, it's pretty funny. And so anyway, he goes through. He keeps her pumped full of drugs, and so the next thing you know is he heads back to the firehouse. But meanwhile, Walter Peck has shown back up, and he brought with him like the police and this court order and this electrician to go and like shut off that ghost incubation chamber, I guess.
Containment chamber.
Yeah, that's what it is. And so anyway, they go and everybody's trying to convince him, don't shut it down, but he goes through and has the guy shut it down anyway. And all of a sudden, like, this big explosion happens. And the roof of the building gets taken off and like all these ghosts start to escape. And that's when we see Louis Tully basically makes a break for it. And and he goes out on the town basically and finds Dana Barrett, who's now possessed with Zool's spirit or demon or whatever you want to call it. And that's when we find out that the Ghostbusters have been arrested. It's kind of funny too.
There's like ghosts fucking everywhere.
Yeah, they do this whole montage of ghosts and like Slimer's eating hot dogs out of a hot dog stand, and there's the one that's kind of weird where it goes up like the tailpipe and like it possesses like the driver of this cab, and so it looks like some out of like Tales from the Crypt or whatever. But so it's funny though, because while they're in jail, they're going through all like these blueprints of the building and all that. Mike, I've never been arrested, but I don't think they let you keep blueprints or like the effects that you have on you at the time.
It's the opposite. They take all that shit.
They don't even let you have shoestrings, from my understanding.
No, they take everything. But I think at that point in the scene, like the police already realize that like the shit's hit the fan and we need the Ghostbusters.
Right. I could see that. We do get a a cameo from Reginald Vell Johnson, who plays like the guard, the policeman that's like in the jail. He's the guy that was on Family Matters. He played a cop. He was on Die Hard. He played the cop. So me and Mike like have this thing going where like we have this fan fiction that like he basically got sick of all this crap and moved to Chicago and changed his name, and he's like a cop now in Chicago in Family Matters.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, like he saw ghosts and Al Powell, like all this crap with Die Hard and all that stuff, and finally he's like, fuck it, I'm out, and he went to Chicago and messed with Urkel for a while. Yeah,
Urkel was the only thing he had to deal with. It was way better than ghosts and terrorists.
Oh yeah, and he got to start a family and all that stuff. Yeah. Yep. So they figure out based on these blueprints that the building that Dana Barrett lives in is supposed to be like this, basically like a lightning rod for ghostly activity or whatever. And the guy that was the engineer on the building, his name's Ivo Shandor, that he actually was like this worshiper of Gozer the Gozerian, and he's basically built this building so at some point in the future they can summon this demon and he can like reign over, you know, the world and all this other crap. They then after that, it's funny because Winston's like, so you guys, he starts going through all this crap that they've got going on. He's like, I need to get a different lawyer. It's just pretty funny.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know part of this shit.
No. We get to, the mayor wants to see him. And they're basically trying to convince the mayor to, like, let him go, cut him loose. Because he's like, basically Bill Murray kind of sinks one in the basket there, because he tells him effectively that if they are successful in taking out this Gozer, the Gozerian, that he will have saved all these, you know, millions of voting populace, and so he'd have a pretty good chance of re-election. And he's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. And so they cut him loose. And then we see Vince Clortho finally finds Zool in the forms of Louis Tully and Dana Barrett, and they actually get it on, don't you think, Mike?
Yeah, they hook up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So Louis Tully, he did, you know, get his fingers wet. So good on him, you know. He was possessed at the time, but whatever.
He got what he wanted.
Yeah, for real.
And she was participatory. She wanted, you know, she was going along with it.
Yeah, she conceded, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, whatever. Yeah, she was a willing participant, we'll say. Anyway, so the mayor cuts them loose. He's like, "What do you guys need?" And they're like, "We need our equipment." And so there's this really badass shot of this police convoy traveling along with the Ecto-1, which I love that shot. It's pretty awesome. Traveling down the road. One thing I will say that I think would be cool about this movie is I always thought whenever I watched it that I would love to have lived in New York whenever they were filming this thing, because it seems like they really interacted with like the people that were living there at the time and stuff, and it would have just been a cool time to be around. And oh yeah, I saw the Ecto-1 again today, you know, and yeah, be one of the bystanders in like the scene where they take out Gozer and all that stuff. It'd have been awesome.
I've always wanted just to live in New York in general.
I've been to New York, have no desire to live there. So
when the wife and I went, I fell in love with the city instantly, and my wife knew immediately she never wanted to live there.
Me and your wife see eye to eye on that one. I sat in a taxi cab and was like, nope, I had enough of this. Like, obviously, there's always that like sense of illusion that if somebody else is driving, that you're gonna be pretty safe for the most part, but not when I was riding in that New York cab, dude. I was tripping.
I like to believe that if I lived there, that I wouldn't even need a car.
No, you probably wouldn't.
Everything that I would work, eat, sleep, work out, all the stuff that I needed to do, like, would all be within a short walking distance.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with that. And the subway system, I mean, as far as public transport goes, it's not bad there. Although I did see a double amputee jump the turnstile for the subway. So
Legit. He's paid his fees, man.
Yes, man. Like he had his family with him and stuff, and the cops were like, "All right, you gotta come with us."
For real?
Yeah, man.
They arrested the double amputee?
I don't know if they arrested him, but I'm pretty sure they made him go back and put money in the thing. So.
Oh, God.
Crazy. And then I almost got beat up in Battery Park by the homeless lady. I told you that story, right?
No.
Oh, yeah. We were going to go see the Statue of Liberty. We were going to go to Liberty Island. And so the next thing you know, man, is there's this woman, and she's like got a newspaper set up on the ground, and she's like just laying there, you know? And so anyway, she's apparently homeless at this, obviously. And so I'm walking, and I like look over, and I notice her laying on the ground, and she looks up at me. She's like, "What do you want?" Like that, and I was like, "I don't want anything." And she's like, "Don't make me get up." I was, yeah, okay, whatever. And just walked off. But yeah,
that is not almost getting beat up.
Well, no, I guess not. But it's
you just
a good
got
story.
talked to by a crazy lady.
Yeah,
it is a good story.
I now call it Assault in Battery Park.
Yes, of course.
I'm gonna copyright that actually.
So I'm sure you're not the first person to say that.
No.
Considering while you were telling that story, I was thinking about making that same cheesy pun.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Fair enough. So they arrive at Dana Barrett's building because they figure out that this is where like the last stand's gonna be, and against this Gozer creature. And what happens when they get there, Mike?
I got a dickless joke written down.
Oh yeah, that's when they're talking to the mayor about Walter Peck. It's like, and this dickless piece of shit turned the machine off, or whatever they say. And the mayor's like, "Is that true?" And he's like, "It is true. This man has no dick."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty great. Hence the intro. But yeah, they show up at Dana Barrett's building, and right out of nowhere, there's this earthquake that transpires, and they wind up getting swallowed into the ground. And so the first time watching this, like, well, that was anticlimactic, you know? But they make it out just fine, and then they go inside the building, and there's this big, long set of stairs. Did they say anything about taking the elevator at all, Mike? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember them saying anything about it. I think they might have made a joke about it.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, they have to go up to the 12th floor, and of course these guys are like dying. I can imagine carrying a nuclear reactor on your back while going
But
12 stairs.
12 flights ain't that bad.
It's not. I don't know how heavy those proton packs are.
Well, they're nuclear accelerators, so probably pretty heavy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, there's got to be like plutonium or uranium or something in there. So,
All I know is all hell's gone. All hell breaks loose like throughout the whole like city. Like, at this point,
right?
When they're climbing the stairs, like there's shit just happening everywhere.
Yeah, there is. And even Dana's her apartment, she like blew out the window of it. Like it looks like telekinetically or something, you know. Yeah, that's how Louis Tully was able to find her. But yeah, stuff's popping off like crazy. Ghosts are running rampant everywhere. It's part of the reason why the mayor cut them loose. Anyway, they finally make it up the 12 flights of stairs, and they find there's this new like stairway that's been constructed in Dana's apartment. And
some type of gate almost.
Yeah. And they go up there, and it leads to like this level of the building where the gargoyles were earlier on in the movie. And yeah. And so Dana and Lewis are up there, and they got it on. And I guess that was what needed to transpire in order for Gozer to manifest herself, whatever.
That's what I was tracking.
Yeah. And so they get it on, and then they turn back to dogs.
Yeah. They turn back to dogs.
They do. And so anyway,
we meet Gozer.
Yeah, it's a chick.
Gozer's a girl.
Yeah, it's not that intimidating. It's not even like a big, like strapping chick either. It's this little 90-pound skinny, you know, not intimidating at all, with a bad haircut.
Why did we all think that Gozer was a dude?
I have no idea. I associate, I guess, destruction with sounds bad, but with dudes, you know. I don't know.
Well, that's often the case.
It is.
You don't hear about female mass shooters.
Not really. They're no. I was thinking that even like for a second I was like, well, the dude that shot Reagan, that might have been but he was shooting Reagan for a chick. He actually shot Ronald Reagan to get Jodie Foster's attention, but no, it was a dude. So
really?
No. Yeah. Believe it or not. But anyway, Gozer asks if the Ghostbusters are gods, in which they reply no, which is kind of funny because later on, like, Gozer ends up like zapping them, and that's whenever Winston's like, if somebody asks you if you're a god, say yes. You know?
Yeah, she like zaps them, and they like slide to the edge of the building, but
they almost fall off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so they go to try to take another shot, and they power up their proton packs, and they go to shoot Gozer, and freaking Gozer winds up dodging the shot completely, and it's at that point they at one point they go to shoot at her again, and she disappears entirely, and they're like, cool, we got her. And then all of a sudden they hear this voice that says choose and perish. And so this is like the scene that everybody thinks of when they think of Ghostbusters, man. The choose and perish. Yeah. What happens
like,
in that?
Venkman's like, don't think of anything. And like they're all trying to clear their minds of thoughts.
Right.
And then Dan Aykroyd, his character, gets this like guilty look on his face because he thought of something. And then we find out it's a gigantic, Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man.
It looks like the Michelin Man, really.
Yeah, but like so, he thought of it because he was thinking of like Happy Things from his childhood, and they used to roast marshmallows. But the image that was on the bag is like what came into his head.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's pretty awesome.
It's pretty funny. They actually try to do a scene similar to that in Ghostbusters 2, and it's not nearly as effective with like the Statue of Liberty. But I didn't like that movie as much. So we'll go on from there. Anyway, so they go through and they find out that there's this marshmallow. They wind up shooting it with the proton packs. The whole thing catches on fire while it's trying to climb up and grab them while they're up in the building.
He's just like fucking up the city.
Yeah, he's stepping on people and knocking shit over. Yeah. It's after that they go to shoot him. Once again, he catches on fire, but it doesn't destroy him. And that's when Egon comes up with an idea.
We gotta cross the streams.
Yeah. And I have my own thoughts on the whole crossing the streams being the way that the movie is resolved. I guess I'll go into it here. So it doesn't really, like, in my opinion, the best payoffs of movies like this that are action or, you know, I mean, this movie has a bunch of different stuff going on as far as genres go. But in my opinion, there isn't much of a payoff. Because it's not like they go through and like they defeat this creature with like something that they've learned in their experience along the way. It's just kind of like a random like, well, fuck it, let's give it a shot, you know. Like, I mean, there is a little bit of a lead up to it when he says we can't cross the streams at all, but you know, they never have that moment where they like come together and conceive of this idea, you know. In my opinion, like they learn something about themselves or about the creature or about each other. Where, you know, they just cross the streams instead.
I think they were at this point, they're just like, fuck it.
Everything's about to go to shit anyways, so
Yeah, we're done. If we
Yeah.
don't just do something.
Could be. Anyways, after...
They cross him, and he, like, explodes.
Do they actually shoot Gozer? Because Gozer went invisible. And I don't think that you actually see Gozer again.
I don't remember seeing Gozer again.
Yeah, they just shoot at her chair and assume that's where she is, so... Gozer's dead, whatever.
Damn it, man, you're messing with me, because now I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I don't think you see Gozer die.
No, you never do.
Unless Gozer became the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
That could be. Oh, that could be. Yeah. But the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man isn't really like... I could kind of see that. Yeah, I was gonna say that, like, you don't really see the Stay Puft He seems like he's not very bright. Like, he doesn't say anything or communicate at all. But, yeah, that could have just been, like, Gozer manifested itself as the Stay Puft Marshmallow, so... But still, even then, they don't cross the streams and shoot it. They shoot the chair. But, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
oh, well.
They cross the streams on the chair?
Yeah, they shoot up to where, like, Gozer... Like, in between where the two dogs are sitting.
How did I miss that?
I don't know. No idea.
Well, I just
it's
remember
just something I noticed this time.
Stay Puft exploding and marshmallow raining down everywhere.
It does, which is pretty awesome. And,
I don't want molten marshmallow on me.
well, no, but after it cools, it might be kind of refreshing, though. Except you have a major ant problem at that point.
Pretty severe burns.
Yeah, it could very well be. Could be. Everybody is basically covered with all this crap, except Bill Murray. Somehow or another, he didn't get like hardly any marshmallow junk on him. At that point, yeah, they noticed that Vince Clortho and Zool are basically solidified at that point. They've turned into stone. And, so they think that Dana Barrett's dead, and then the next thing you know is they happen to notice like her managing like with their fingers to like claw her way out of this hardened statue thing, and so they bust the thing open. She's fine, Lewis is fine, and that's when Winston says, "I love this town," and that effectively closes out the movie. I mean, we hear the Ghostbusters theme.
Yeah, they're heroes.
Mm-hmm.
We see Slimer fly at us one more time.
Yeah,
And that's it.
So, with the ending song there, the Ghostbusters theme, how much do you know about the Ray Parker Jr. song? Because there's a lawsuit about that.
Oh, really? No, I don't know any of that backstory.
Yeah, no. So, they went through originally, from my understanding, they had tried to get Huey Lewis and the News to do the theme song for the movie. And he was like, dude, I just came out with my sports album, and I don't have time. I'm doing a tour and all this other stuff. I ain't got time to mess with this stupid album or with your movie song, you know? And so anyway, Ray Parker Jr. did the Ghostbusters theme song, and then Huey Lewis heard the song, and it sounded very similar to I Want a New Drug, which was on Huey Lewis's sports album. And then, so sure enough, Huey Lewis thought that he should be getting paid for this if they're going to copy a song. And if you listen to it, like the chord progressions in the song, I'll say are not dissimilar from the Ghostbusters theme song. And so Huey Lewis wound up winning a bunch of money. And then I guess they signed a non-disclosure agreement to say who won the case and how much they won and all this other stuff. And so anyway, in an interview in 2001, Huey Lewis commented that he that they basically paid for his creativity or whatever. And so apparently implying that he won the case. So Ray Parker Jr. sued him again that same year. All this stuff. It was insane, man.
For violating the non-disclosure?
Mm-hmm. Yep. The NDA. So I don't know, sue me, sue you type deal. But I don't know, man. It's crazy stuff.
So what did you think about the movie?
I've always liked Ghostbusters, and I know that I'm kind of painting a target on myself when I say that I'm not in love with Ghostbusters because it is so popular. This movie tried to do a bunch of stuff. It had the comedy angle. There's a little bit of horror sprinkled in there. There's a fairly decent amount of action in there. Maybe a smidge of drama, even though it was handled in a comedic fashion. And I kind of get the feeling that this movie is kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none type deal, man. It's what it does well, but it never really hits the point where, oh man, this is just the funniest movie I ever saw, or man, that was so scary, or man, that's some great action, it does sufficient in all of those different categories, but it never blows the doors off at any of them, in my opinion.
I think you're missing the point.
What's that?
The point was let's put a great cast together.
Yeah.
Okay, which they did.
Oh yeah, great cast.
Fantastic cast. I mean, it's just a list of stars. Bill Murray, who I fell in love with Bill Murray in this film, and I never looked back. Dan Aykroyd, legend.
Oh yeah.
Harold Ramis, little less known. But I have seen him in some other things. Same story for Ernie Hudson. He did have a couple other bigger roles later in his career. But then the gems of Sigourney Weaver, Rick Moranis, and Annie Potts all in there. So that great cast. And I think what they were trying to do when they made this movie was make an entertaining movie for the whole family. And you know what? They did that.
I agree. In fact, that's something I was thinking about earlier, is I don't think that they ever went into this expecting to have this icon of a film that everybody fell in love with. They just wanted to make a good movie and have a good time. And this thing blew up far more than they ever thought it would, if you ask me.
Yeah, I was watching an interview earlier this week because, this week Black Panther came out in theaters. And as a really young director, he's 31. What is his name? Crowder?
Coogler.
He's a young guy, and he was being asked basically in this interview about what he was attempting to do. Because this movie's getting a lot of press for having almost all black cast. Mm-hmm. First movie to ever really do that, and this a bunch of stuff, politically driven questions. Right. Towards him, and his answer was, well, first of all, I just wanted to make a really good movie,
right,
that was fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And I think we forget sometimes that that's what some directors are out there to do. They just want to make something entertaining that we'll enjoy,
Yeah. And maybe Ryan Coogler, whatever his name is, just likes comic books and likes comic book movies, and he wanted to do that. So more power to you. I kind of respect people that go into something like that without an agenda, because it seems like everybody's got an agenda nowadays, and it's kind of refreshing to not be inundated with that, so.
Yeah. I had fun watching Ghostbusters when I was a child. I watched it last time, and I was watching it with my nephew and his girlfriend, 20 and 18. Neither one of them had ever seen Ghostbusters.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of like a rule. You had to watch Ghostbusters.
We forget, man, if it's not free on Netflix or Hulu, like,
true.
these kids aren't watching it. They don't have cable.
Well, and I could talk all day about the decline of, like, the brick and mortar stores and how, you know, in my opinion, that's kind of, you know, cut off, you know, like these oncoming generations from this whole other pool of culture, you know, that they don't have access to. But
Kids today have Amazon Fire Sticks plugged into their TV sets.
They do.
And they watch what's in the theater now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's it right there, is that these kids are more worried about, you know, Black Panther or Guardians of the Galaxy or your Wonder Womans and stuff like that, as opposed to, well, you know, that thing that's, you know, 35 years old. I don't care that much, you know. So,
yeah, I keep being pleasantly surprised, I should say, every time we watch one of these movies. That I remember they were pretty good flicks, man. They still hold up.
Yeah.
You know, so I like Ghostbusters. I don't know what else to say about it. It was great.
I like it, but I don't love it. I wish I did. And I'm sorry to anybody that loves it and feels like I should. I don't. But yeah.
When I bought the DVD, I think I bought the DVD after the reboot came out.
Oh, really?
I went and bought the original because I wanted to show Farrah the original.
I got you.
And it came with like a Ghostbusters logo, like patch, like for a coat or something.
Oh yeah.
And there's something about that logo that just makes me think of childhood.
It's iconic, dude.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying earlier about, like, the branding in the movie. Like, this is a marketing, like, thing, you know. Like, back when it came out, like, there wasn't a possibility, unless you were, like, Amish or something, of you not hearing about Ghostbusters, you know.
Yeah, I had all the stuff. I had the costume. Of course, I was Venkman. I had the toys. I was crazy about it.
Yeah. No, I do like this movie, but I think that I wish that I liked it more than I did, because, you know, but it's good.
Okay.
It's not a bad movie.
Okay, cool. So for the last 2 weeks, we've established your taste in movies is not that great. So I'm really excited to hear, what are we watching this week?
Well, it's funny you were talking about how movies that stand up or don't stand up to the test of time, because I was just watching a movie yesterday, Apollo 13, and that's not the movie we're watching, by the way, but it's kind of funny though, because, you know, there was a lot of dog shit that came out in, like, the late 90s, but there was a lot of decent stuff that came out, in my opinion, in, like, the early to mid 90s. If you look at, like, your Jurassic Parks and your Apollo 13s and just a bunch of stuff, it seems like there was a lot more energy whenever they were making the movies. Like, they genuinely had a story to tell, you know, and stuff like that. And so looking back, I'm anxious to see what your opinion is about next week's movie, whereas we're going to be watching the original Mission Impossible movie with, once again, Tom Cruise.
I'm down.
Yeah. I'm gonna be for real, it's probably my favorite of that whole franchise. I really like that movie, but I'm anxious to see your opinion.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much, but I remember bits and pieces of it, and I remember it's the only one of Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible movies that really, like, harkened to the original Mission Impossible television show.
Right. A lot more espionage and stuff like that, yeah. So
yeah, cool. I'm excited.
One of the reasons I picked it is just because I wanted to watch Mission Impossible. So. But yeah, and so we have that to look forward to next week. But anyway, any final thoughts, Mike?
Nope. Remember, you can download us and stream us off iTunes. You always can find us on our YouTube channel. That's Casino Royale with Cheese, all one word with a W for the with part.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I mean, it does to me, but I already know what it is. So.
Casino Royale W Cheese, all one word.
One word, yep. You can also email us at cheesymovie@yahoo.com. You can look us up. We got a Facebook page. Still no Twitter. I don't really care that much about tweeting, so it's whatever.
I had a long conversation about Twitter yesterday with an 18-year-old female, and she literally just sits there and scrolls through Twitter for hours and hours and hours.
Till her battery dies, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I never could get into it like that, but whatever. Anyway.
Well, another fun week in the books.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and I guess we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
I'll be back.